into sports for young, like for example what's happening today. I can identify myself as a transgender woman and compete in women's sports and win.
Agree.
And
I
win.
agree with you.
And
I
win.
agree with you. That's a problem.
There's no problem, right?
There is a problem.
Why?
Because you have a biological advantage.
But that doesn't matter. I am a woman.
When it comes
You
to
are discriminating me. Who am I just because I'm on the wrong body? It wasn't my choice.
Now we agree, actually. I do think that if a transgender woman, so she used to be a man, they grew up as a man, they now have a biological advantage, it's very difficult to say that they should be playing in the same gender in sports. I agree that that's a problem.
Yeah, but you are now introducing something that I do not agree with in terms of discrimination. You're discriminating me because I happen to be in a male's body. Or you're discriminating me, I'm actually a 5-year-old, and you're discriminating me to go into a school and sit with other 5-year-olds. Or you can see the potential, right? I can go there and then win or succeed in everything in life because I identify as the King of England, for example. And these possibilities are so held that where is the limit? That's why the whole gender and identity business. Islam offers us that it's not what you think what you are. You are how you were created by God. He's given you. You might feel suddenly like, you know what, you're God yourself. There are people who think they're gods. Pharaoh, he said, I am the greatest of all gods. So people can identify themselves many things in terms of what they're not and so on. Islam brings people back to the reality. The reality is He created us, and these kind of feelings and inclinations and choices people will have. People will have a choice of attraction to the same gender, attraction to maybe the beast and animal, attraction to like toys and trees, whatever. But God is saying, okay, you need to resist these attractions. Imagine somebody says, just imagine, I don't feel myself, I cannot control myself, but to kill, but to rape. It's all within me, it's programmed. I was born that way. I cannot but go and rape a woman. I cannot do it, it's just me. So why are you going to blame me for it? Because that's me. Where does it stop? Islam is saying, yeah, some people may have psychopathic, for example, a psychopath may have this kind of feelings and inclinations and desires. It says, no, stop these and resist and fight those desires. And it gives you the mechanisms of how to fight it. So unfortunately, because today, like an intelligent woman like yourself are agreeing to the societal liberal pressures of normalizing this, what's going to happen is, in the future, we won't be able to say no, because by legislation they will say, no, you can't amend, you can't rectify someone who thinks he's a cat and he wants to eat cat food only. You can't do that. By law, you will be punished if you wanted to even encourage that individual and says, you're not feline, you're not cat, you'll be punished for that because you're infringing on their identity. This is a mundane example. Yeah. So if we kept on allowing this liberal societal, the way it's going ahead, I'm foreseeing a future which is not very nice. Yeah. Islam puts us in a hudud, called a boundary.
A step ahead is what you're saying.
Step ahead, because homosexuality was a...
Islam.
He's a heckler. That's why we avoid him. Not too far away from this place.
Why are you pushing me?
Excuse me.
How dare you push me?
Brother, please push me.
Mister,
Can you leave him alone?
Look here. Okay. Islam is
Do you see the problem? Excuse me. Excuse me, brother.
pushing me?
Leave him alone.
1 hour I'll come
No
and
problem. Come this way. Come this way.
I'm standing here 1 hour.
It's okay.
Let me ask you.
You're fasting?
Let me ask you a question.
Say I'm fasting. In this way. Right, come here on this way. MashaAllah. Problem solved.
Why Islam is discriminating women by not going in a paradise? Islam is putting a woman in hellfire. Why is that?
Okay.
Why is that?
Right. To continue, as you were saying, firstly, it's wrong.
Answer the question first.
Because in the Quran, God says, the mu'mineen wal mu'minat. Shall I give you the verse? It gives you a black and white statement of believing men and believing women, righteous men and righteous women, the ones who is, the one who can't, men and women, men and women, men and women, men and women.
That's false.
Sorry, can I?
That's false.
That was actually my next question.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to. I'm coming from a place of curiosity because I don't understand. I want to understand your religion.
Fine. So I'm trying to explain to you. So I'm just going to
understand your approach to women.
Yeah, exactly. Let me show you what the Quran says about this.
You can show the brother, no problem.
Molestation of children.
I'll give you the Arabic and the English translation.
Sorry, I don't read that.
No, because the Quran is not in English, it's in Arabic. Just to highlight, and you will hear the difference of the words. إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والصادقين والصادقات والصابرين والصابرات والخاشعين والخاشعات والمتصدقين والمتصدقات والصائمين والصائمات والحافظين فروجهم والحافظات والذاكرين الله كثيرا والذاكرات أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. Surely the men who submit and the women who submit, and the believing man and the believing woman, and the obeying man and the obeying woman, and the truthful man and the truthful woman, and the patient man and the patient woman, and the humble man and the humble woman, and the alms-giving man and the alms-giving woman, and the fasting man and the fasting woman, and the men who guard their private parts and the women who guard, and the men who remember Allah much and the women who remember. Allah has prepared for them forgiveness and a mighty reward. Paradise. So it is incorrect and a lie in Speaker's Corner to say women are not going to go to paradise. God not only specified, He even said like men and women, this man, all of this. So God has created us with different roles and responsibilities, but in His sight, the reward is the same. The obligation to believe in Allah and love and respect Him is the same. How He look on you is the same. You may have more of a responsibility, and in fact, you may have more respect than the father. At one point, a man came and asked, O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who deserves more from my mother or the father in respect and so on? It's a very vague statement, includes everything, right? It's not just respect in only speaking, but it got everything, how you deal and interact. He says, you know what Prophet ﷺ said? Your mother. Okay? The man said, and then who, O Prophet ﷺ? He said, your mother. And then who? O Prophet. He says, your mother. Look what man is thinking. SubhanAllah. Between the father and mother, he's saying, your mother. And then who says, your father. So here from what we understand, because the mom and dad, even though they're parents, God has given certain roles and responsibilities which are different. So how we appreciate our mother and so on, how mom, we are not even able to repay a single second of pain she endured while we were pregnant, while she was pregnant with us in her womb. The pain in childbirth that she suffered because of us. The pain when we were crying, we couldn't even change our diapers or our nappies, and she cleaned us, looked after us, and she would. This love of mother, if you look at the creation, how it protects, so on. So God is saying, okay, this is how we have to respect. In fact, there is a hadith in a figurative way. Paradise lies under the feet of your mothers. Not literally, just to show you the respect that your mother deserves.
Why Muhammad is having a problem with women?
So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has described women in the way that is deserving of her respect or of her role. The difference that people see
Will not go to the paradise.
You're interrupting. And I don't want to speak to you. Thank you.
Come on.
I don't want to speak to you. I'm speaking to this lady here, if you don't mind.
So you don't want to
Would you
hear
respect?
the truth?
Would you respect me if I don't want to speak to
You don't want to
you?
hear the truth.
I don't want to speak to you. Is that
You
okay?
don't want to hear the truth. You don't want to hear the truth.
This is an example from nowhere. Look,
You don't want to hear the truth.
if you don't mind, I don't want to speak to you.
You don't want to hear the truth.
This is just an
Is it
example
hurting
about.
you?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Is the truth
So,
hurting you?
the Prophet ﷺ talked about the man and
Muhammad
woman.
himself said,
You were
the
interrupting
woman
me.
will
I
not
don't want to speak
enter
to him.
into paradise
please,
because
don't
they are
disturb.
menstruating.
Sorry, let me ask
They are
the question.
menstruating.
I will ask the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the attitude of Islam towards menstruating women?
Menstruated women should not be harmed. So they should not, you men who are the husbands of menstruating women should not have sexual intimacy when she's into menstruation, because that will be a harm, a physical harm as well. Okay? Not only just a hygienic thing, it's a harm. So stay away of sexual intimacy when she's menstruating.
According to
Is that
Allah,
all the Quran says?
Quran says other. They ask you, يسألونك عن المحيض. They ask you about menstruation. Say, this is other.
Taqiya.
ويسألونك عن المحيض. What is the English unit? Allah said in Quran,
I'll bring it.
ويسألونك عن المحيض قل هو أذى فاعتزلوا النساء في المحيض ولا تقربوهن حتى يطهرن فإن تطهرن فأتوهن من حيث أمركم الله إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب المتطهرين. Read in English.
Yeah. And they ask you about menstruation. Say, it is harm, other.
to you, Muhammad,
So keep away from the wives during menstruation. And do not approach them until they're pure, meaning they're already finished and they're clean. And do not approach them until they're pure, and when they have purified themselves, then come to them from where Allah has ordained for you. Indeed, Allah loves those who are constantly repented and love those who are purified themselves.
The next one.
Nisa'ukum
نساؤكم حرث لكم فأتوا حرثكم أن شئتم وقدموا لأنفسكم واتقوا الله واعلموا أنكم ملاقوه وبشر المؤمنين.
Your women are a piece of cultivation, because this is where you have your next generation.
That's the insult.
Your offspring comes from them for you. So come to your place of cultivation however you wish, and put forth for yourself, and fear Allah, and know that you will meet Him, meet Allah, and give good tidings to the believers. So it doesn't say, like some people like to think like menstruation means women are totally and impure and so on and so forth. No. It's simply saying because we know when people are in their menses, in their periods, they're under a lot of emotional, psychological stress that's all associated with this. And people
Woman, don't pray. Yeah, that woman, don't pray.
Oh yes, subhanAllah, this is the point. If women are in their menstruation, they're exempt from fasting, or exempt from even praying. They can make this up later.
open it up now.
That's why they cannot enter in the paradise.
Now, I don't know what this gentleman is saying.
Heckler.
I don't know. Is there
You can leave the hecklers, because the job of a heckler,
Your prophet is saying this.
I just showed you what the Quran says about women.
Cannot enter into paradise because they are menstruating. Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim.
there is an obvious
Sahih Muslim.
issue with that passage,
What's the issue?
which is that
Below
they are pure, so obviously implying that
All
women who are
Muslims,
menstruating
they are
are
liars.
not pure.
They are
That
liars.
is
Even
Purity is about the menses. It's talking about don't approach them until they have purified themselves. How you purify themselves is through bath. That's what it's asking you. You haven't had the ritual bath
He left his daughter.
when you have finished your menstruation. So you're not impure in the sense that like you're najas, you're like filth. That's what the Quran is describing. Quran is saying you cannot approach her with the sexual intimacy until it's ended and they have come out of this by having a bath.
Thank you. I've got one final question before I go. Why is it that the oppression of women, and I can possibly anticipate a response, which is that what these people are doing is separate from what the Quran says they should be doing, right? Possibly that's your response. But my question is, why is it that there is a higher propensity of oppression of women, lack of education, that sort of thing, you know what I mean, within Islamic countries? Why is it that Islamic countries are able to accept that and feel the need to progress?
Sure. Very good question. Firstly, it is not correct to say Islam oppresses women in terms of education and their progression.
I should say I'm making a clear distinction between what the Quran says and what people do.
Yeah. I'm giving you a broader understanding from the source itself. The Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, says, طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة in some riwayat, or كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Seeking knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim. So there are some narrations which talks about men and women.
First word in Quran.
Read in the rape. Brother, that's right. So the Prophet said it's an obligation. The religion that we have today, you'll be surprised, the knowledge of the religion is transmitted by a lot of women, if not most of our religion. Aisha radiallahu anha transmitted so much of the knowledge of our religion. If I were to ask you from any culture for the last 1,000 years, let's go back, say, 200 years, in the 18th century, to 1,000 years. Let us find out women scholars in every society, every culture, and their contribution. You will struggle to find and to name women scholars, scientists, philosophers, and so on throughout the world. But you'll be surprised to hear in Islam, if you were to ask me now, I can give you 30-volume work.
I'm actually not surprised. I know that about Islam.
So I'm just telling you, 30-volume work of Muslim sahabiyat, or the women who contributed to knowledge, civilization, and so on and so forth, and passing this knowledge. The first university in the world, in Morocco, was by someone called Fatima, a woman, okay, from, of course, an Islamic background. She's Muslim. So Islam never discouraged women from learning and to preach. As I said, many scholars today, they have women teachers where they have to get the certificate from, because they are the top ones are the women, and that continued. What happened is, as many societies, Islamic lands, it's a long history. Islam got, as a state level, spliced by imperial forces of different others, France, Britain, and others, from the 1924, I think, last or something, right? And they instigated puppet regimes, puppet rulers, and so on. And the whole idea was, yes, we will let you have your state back, but in our terms. They will do what we ask them to do. So there were puppet regimes. So they corrupted the education system and instilled in a system which was secularized, non-Islamic, and that's why the product was there coming from generation after generation. If you go to Emirates now in certain countries in the Middle East, the majority of the people are women scholars studying in university, are women. Majority of them, educated and women. Some countries like Afghanistan, which is the scapegoat and in the media, they're not sending women to education and so on. That's their particular way of thinking and their approach they're doing. Islam never discouraged, as we said. They've taken a stance. I don't want to defend them. I don't want to criticize them because this is an isolated case. But everywhere else, Islam doesn't discourage, rather it encourages you. It makes you obligatory, as I said. It is obligatory on every Muslim to acquire knowledge. The scholars would say the first and foremost obligation is about religious knowledge. And then secondly, that's another scapegoat example of Iran, right? Because Iran is another regime in which their particular understanding of Islam and so on has compromised, the position of women and so on and so forth. So what we are seeing rather is example which are an isolated case. These are called that skews the data. Yeah. Whenever we look at data, these data, these skewers, these are, what's the term in statistics? I've forgotten, it escapes me. You can't use this to normalize the data. We know their regimes, their particular understanding of Islam has corrupted or made it into be like that. But if you study the Islamic history in terms of approach to how women should they be oppressed or should they be educated? You will see it's the opposite.
My question then is separating the theory, the theology. So I understand that from the Quran, there's equality in the Quran. That's theology. The reality is that women are being oppressed and they have to wear certain things that even if they don't want to, they are not getting the educational experiences that they should be getting. That's the reality. So my question then is, why is it, and you mentioned data skewing.
Outliers, I've got the word now.
Outliers, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I agree with you there, because it does, I'm finding it very difficult to name even one Arabic country, one country where the majority is Islamic, where there is a semblance of equality between the genders. I think it's not an outlier, it appears to be the norm.
Current society is not Islamic. I agree with you. People are not implementing Islam. So we should, to give you an example, so we have a brilliant highway code that is modified and improved to a point where we want to make our roads safe. And then we find certain outliers messing around with the highway code, driving the other way, not stopping at the red light. Now, are we going to now change the highway code for them, or do we want to change them to stop misbehaving? We need to correct those outliers who are not following a tried and tested system of the highway code, which makes our roads safe for pedestrians and the commuters themselves. Islam, in its governance, when all the systems in place, education system, social system, criminal system, economic systems, when you all as a whole holistically is applied, it has shown us evidence of history that it worked. It worked. It progressed and flourished. When the Queen of England didn't have a bath for a month, we had underground sewage system in the Islamic countries back then, overground lighting system, right?
No. Please don't.
Space, right? So this is how Islam flourished with science, technology, advancements, right? Because of how the Islam was implemented. So we see, because of some of the things I've alluded to already, the regime that has been in place, who are not implementing Islam. If you are not implementing Islam, you're implementing non-Islam. That's what the problem is. These non-Islam that you're going to implement will create problems and destabilization in the society, and it will create harm and corruption, which you wouldn't see otherwise when the whole system is implemented in entirety. So we are struggling as Muslims to remove this oppression from our lands, from our ruling elites and the systems, to bring back Islam in its place. Because at one point, to give you an example, the 5th Caliph Abdul Aziz, he was trying to give charity, zakat, charity, to poor people, and he couldn't find people to give. Today, look at how many people are poor.
For Muslim.
Just look at it. Today, so many people are poor. You mentioned about imbalance and disparity is so big. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. But Islam, when it was implemented, the Khalif, the ruler of the country, was finding difficult to find.
Don't lie, please. Don't lie.
So
Don't lie.
Yes, if he lies, I can just go on.
The historical figure.
No,
Thank you.
He is saying
Thank you.
This charity they are collecting, and they are collecting only for Muslims.
I can do my own research.
Abdul Aziz, Muhammad Abdul Aziz. So you can research about his life and his political activities. So he was finding it difficult to find someone to give this zakat, because the system of zakat, the charity tax, is such that every Muslim, after a certain amount of wealth, they are obliged, mandatory for them to give 2.5% of a surplus wealth to the poor and the needy. Everyone has to do that. So when this is then collected by the state level, it's a lot of money, 2.5% of the wealth. and distribute it to the poor. The poor have their rights and their shelter, and so on and so forth. And not only that, of course, this is an additional bonus. Governments need some kind of taxation to function, right? They collect all this tax and so on. So this, excuse me, if you don't mind. So when Islam collects the mandatory charity from the Muslims, in the Baitul Mal, in the treasury, is a large portion of money with its other facilities and contributions. It will implement a system in which the poor will have a house over their head, food on their table, education for the children, and so on and so forth. That will be the basic, the minimum thing that they will have. But unfortunately, it doesn't.
I will determine for myself.
Excellent.
You don't need to tell her.
So I agree with you in many ways. There are Muslim countries because Muslims live there, but they're not Islamic countries where Islam is implemented in its entirety. They are implementing usury and interest and so on. It's like.
So stepping away from all the charity stuff, which I completely, that's fascinating, thank you. In terms of the gender imbalance, can I just understand the stance here? Is it that essentially the countries that we see in the Middle East and also in Africa, that you see huge gender imbalances, is that the stance that they're not actually implementing Islam correctly?
Yes, exactly. Because Islam does not discriminate them, because Islam did not prevent women, for example, from having their own business. Just to give you an example, Islam says, according to Islamic law, if there is a husband and a wife, for example, and a wife has a business, and she's a billionaire, the husband cannot touch even 1 cent or 1 penny from her. If she wants to give her 1 penny or £1 billion, that's up to her. He can't even touch her. She can if she wants to run a business and so on and so forth. But what Islam encourages, that the business that you're going to do in public, it has to be in a way that is convenient for her, not somewhere where you have to mix man and woman and dress in your bikinis, whatever. It has to safeguard herself in the way she will interact in society. So Islam does a lot of preventative work because Islam considers prevention is better than cure. So the way we dress, the way we look at man and woman is to do with preventing all of that. So as an economic entrepreneur and so on, she can be if she wants to. But if she doesn't want to work, she doesn't want to study, she wants to do self-study, whatever, she wants to live in the house and she says, provide me all of that. I need X, Y, Z, I need this, I need that. The man, the husband, is under the obligation to provide her all of that. The man has to provide her and make her happy with, if she wants, like, I don't like this house, give me another house, you've got money. Well, he's under the obligation because that's how it's going to make her happy. So the man is the one with that responsibility, additional responsibility of maintaining, supporting, taking care of the woman. But the woman, if she doesn't want to, she doesn't have to work. So
that sounds really unequal to me. I think there should be more rights for men.
No, she doesn't. No, Islam considers man and woman are geared differently. Islam considers the reality of their makeup. Woman can multitask, man cannot. So you cannot just praise a man saying, yeah, you're better than women. No, you're not better than women in multitasking. Women are. So you have to give the right where it's due. When Islam says men are more in their physique, more muscles and so on and so forth, let them do all the laborious work and so on, and let's spare the woman. You can't say this is imbalance, because that's how it seems to be fair, because of their physical makeup and their psyche and so on. Islam takes into account that differences. So that's why we say, in general, Islam seems to agree with equality, but it goes one step further. It says no. It goes over and says no. Equitable treatment. So, you know about equity. The seat in the bus, you and I are there, and he's an old man. He can't stand. Equality means, if I got it first, I can sit. I don't have to stand up. But equity means he deserves to be on that seat. So Islam gives you equitable treatment to men and women and so on in society.
Subhanallah. Thank you very much. That was very
What's your name?
insightful.
Tilly, nice talking to you. My name is Mansoor. I don't shake hands. But
look at this.
physical touch,
Discrimination
you
here.
would agree why we don't.
It's not. It's
That
their
is-
religion.
that is
It's their religion.
discrimination.
Miss
It's their
Mansour.
religion, and I respect that.
Thank you.
I respect
Discrimination.
this.
Where can
One
we
second, it's
find
okay.
the
You
Quran?
take care. Pleasure speaking to you.
Where is the Quran?
That is called discrimination.
Where can we find the Quran? Show the Quran to all Muslims here. Mansour, where is the Quran? Where is the Quran? These lies are up to here. There is no Quran.
There is no
Anywhere. Mansour knows this.
Yes.